Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Pylon Show. I'm Artosis, and joining me today is the one and only, the man with the most infectious laughter in the StarCraft community, Geoff in Control Robinson.
Thank you, Dan. It's great to be here, ready to dive into some StarCraft goodness. And I'm going to say, it feels good to be back in the saddle hosting this show with you.
Indeed, Geoff. We've missed you, buddy. Now, let's not keep our audience waiting any longer. We have two fantastic guests with us today, starting with none other than the passionate caster and analytical guru, Nathanias Fabricant. Welcome, Nathanias.
Thanks for having me, guys. Super excited to be here and discuss all things StarCraft with you.
And last but certainly not least, we have a very special guest joining us today. He's known for his love of memes and his incredible mastery of the Zerg race. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Sally UpATreeZelda.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm stoked to be here and chat about the game we all love.
Fantastic. Now that we're all acquainted, let's jump right into the latest happenings in the StarCraft world with This Week in StarCraft. All right, guys, let's kick things off with a big shout out to our sponsor, Pizza Biweekly Tournament. These guys are serving up some serious StarCraft action with side of delicious pizza.
Oh, you know, I love me some pizza. Dan. And what better way to enjoy it than while watching some epic battles unfold on the StarCraft stage? Pizza Biweekly Tournament has really nailed the combination.
Absolutely. Tough. Now let's dive into the highlights from the past week. The WCS circuit has been heating up with some intense matches. Did you catch the showdown between Soral and Raynor? It was a Zerg-Verg masterpiece.
Oh, that series was insane. Both players showcased incredible micro and decision making. It was like watching a chess match on steroids. But in the end, Soral's impeccable control gave him the edge.
I'll disagree, Nathanias. I think Raynor's aggressive playstyle caught Cyril off guard in the first few games. It just goes to show that even the best can be toppled if you catch them off balance.
Well, we have a difference of opinion right off the bat. This is shaping up to be an interesting episode. Now let's talk about the GSL. Maru made a strong comeback after a bit of a slump. Did you guys see that epic base trade?
Oh man, Artosis. That base trade was absolutely wild. It had everything: nuclear launches, clutch lifts, and nail-biting decision-making. Maru showed us why he's considered one of the greatest Terran players of all time.
I agree, Jeff. Maru's ability to make split-second decisions under pressure is truly unmatched. But I have to give a shout out to Dark as well. His relentless aggression nearly brought him the victory.
I'm going to have to side with Nathanias here. Dark's aggressive style kept Maru on his toes throughout the series. It was a nail-biter until the very end.
Well, it seems we have a unanimous decision on the intensity of that series, but some differing opinions on who had the upper hand. That's what makes StarCraft so exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely, Dan. The dynamic nature of the game ensures that there's always room for debate and different playstyles to shine. That's what keeps us all coming back for more.
Well said. Geoff. Now, let's switch gears a bit and talk about the upcoming balance changes. The community has been buzzing about the proposed changes to the Protoss race. What are your thoughts, guys?
So, personally, I think the more proposed changes, step in the right direction. Protoss has been, struggling a bit in certain matchups, and these adjustments should help level the playing field.
I'll disagree. Nathanias, I think the changes might swing things too far in favor of Protoss. We need to be cautious not to upset, not to the balance too much and create new issues.
Interesting perspectives, gentlemen. Again, it's clear that these changes are sparking some lively debates within the community. We'll have to wait and see how things unfold.
Absolutely, Dan. The StarCraft community is known for its passionate discussions, and the balance changes are always a hot topic. It'll be interesting to see how the meta evolves as a result.
Indeed, Geoff. Well, that wraps up our coverage of This Week in StarCraft. We've seen some incredible matches, had some friendly disagreements, and sparked a few.
That's what the Pylon Show is all about. Dan, bringing the community together to share our love for this amazing game and all the drama and excitement that comes with it.
You said it, Geoff. Now, before we move on to our next segment, let's take a quick break and hear from our amazing sponsors. When we return, we'll dive into our prepared topics and discussions. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back, everyone, to the Pylon Show. We're here with our incredible guests, Nathanias and UpATreeZelda, ready to dive into some heated discussions. But first, let's tackle our prepared topics for today.
That's right, Dan. Our first topic revolves around the rise of up-and-coming players in the StarCraft scene. It's always exciting to see fresh talent make their mark.
Absolutely. The Joff to Craft community has a rich history of witnessing rising stars, from players like Scarlet and Rogue to more recent sensations like Clem and Max Pax. What are your thoughts on the impact of these new players, Nathanias?
The emergence of new talent is vital for the growth and vitality of any sport. It brings fresh perspectives, innovative strategies, and keeps the competitive scene dynamic. I love seeing new faces challenging the established players.
I agree with Nathanias. The influx of talented newcomers keeps the veterans on their toes and pushes the boundaries of what's possible in the game. It's a constant reminder that StarCraft has a bright future ahead.
It's fascinating to see how the competitive landscape evolves with the introduction of these rising stars. Their dedication and hard work often inspire the community as a whole. Now, let's move on to our next topic.
That's right, Dan. Our next topic is centered around the evolving meta, and the recent balance changes is always a hot topic of discussion in the StarCraft community, and there have been some significant adjustments lately.
Indeed, Joff. The development team at Blizzard has been working hard to ensure a balanced and enjoyable experience for players across all three races. Nathanias, what are your thoughts on the recent changes?
Balance changes have certainly shaken up the meta. We've seen shifts in dominant strategies and play styles. Some players have embraced the changes while others have had to adapt their strategies to stay competitive. Overall, it's been a healthy process for them.
I'm enjoying the new dynamics the balance changes have introduced. It's forced players to think outside the box and explore different approaches. As a Zerg player, I've had to adjust my playstyle, but it's been a refreshing challenge.
It's great to hear different perspectives on the impact of balance changes. It shows that there's no one-size-fits-all answer and that the adjustments affect players in unique ways.
Absolutely, Dan. The beauty of StarCraft lies in its complexity and the ever-evolving strategies. These balance changes keep the game fresh and exciting, ensuring there's always something new to explore.
Well said, Joff. And that concludes our prepared topics and discussions for today. We've touched on the rise of up-and-coming players and the impact of recent balance changes. Now let's move on to the next segment. Twitter comments. We've received an abundance of tweets from the StarCraft community, and it's time to address some of them. But before we do, let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. When we return, we'll dive into the hilarious and thought-provoking comments from our Twitterverse. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back, StarCraft enthusiasts, to the Pylon Show. We've got a bunch of intriguing Twitter comments to tackle today, so let's dive right into it.
Oh, I can't wait to see what the community has been buzzing about. You know, they always bring the heat, Dan.
Absolutely. Stuff. Our first tweet comes from StarCraft fanatic Canute, who asks, what's your take on the new meta in ZP? It seems like the Protoss have finally found a way to counter the Zerg's aggressive strategies.
GA's the eternal struggle between Zerg and Protoss. Meta was constantly evolving, and we're seeing some fascinating developments in ZP. Protoss players have indeed adapted and found ways to counter the Zerg's aggression, but Zergs, as always, are quick to innovate and find new ways to keep the Protoss on their toes.
I agree with Nathanias. The SZVP matchup has always been a delicate dance.
Yeah.
And it's great to see the back and forth between the two races. It keeps the game exciting and unpredictable.
Well said, Jim. The ZP matchup is undoubtedly a fascinating one to watch. The metagame shifts and the constant search for an edge make it one of the most dynamic matchups in StarCraft.
Our next tweet comes for CCU. And you think Terran players are being overshadowed in the current meta. It feels like Zerg and Protoss are stealing all the spotlight.
As a dedicated Terran player, I can understand where Terrankingdom is coming from. It's true that Zerg and Protoss have been grabbing a lot of attention lately, but I think Terrans have some tricks up their sleeves. They just need to adapt and find their own path to shine.
So I agree with Sal. While it may seem like guns are overshadowed, there are still plenty of fantastic Terran players making waves. The race is known for its tenacity and flexibility, and I believe we'll see some impressive performances from Terran players in the near future.
Well said, Jim. Each race has its own unique strengths and strategies. It's all about finding the right balance and seizing opportunities to make an impact.
Moving on to our next tweet, Toot Enthusiast asks, what do you think about the recent influx of community-driven tournaments? Do you think they're essential for the growth of StarCraft?
Community-driven tournaments are the lifeblood of any esport. They provide opportunities for aspiring players to showcase their skills, build a name for themselves, and contribute to the overall growth of the game. Without these tournaments, the scene would lack diversity and excitement.
I couldn't agree more. Nathanias, community-driven tournaments not only give players a chance to shine, but also keep the community engaged and united. They foster a sense of camaraderie and allow fans to support their favorite players. And
community-driven tournaments are indeed crucial for the growth and sustainability of StarCraft. They bring a sense of grassroots passion to the forefront and provide invaluable opportunities for players to gain exposure and experience.
Our next tweet comes from Protos Mastermind, who asks, what are your predictions for the future of StarCraft? Do you think the game will continue to thrive in the ever-evolving esports landscape?
As a longtime StarCraft fan, I have no doubt that the game will continue to thrive. StarCraft has a timeless appeal that has captivated players and fans for decades. Its depth and complexity set it apart from other esports titles, ensuring its longevity.
iShare sells optimism while the esports landscape is always changing. StarCraft's legacy and dedicated community will keep it alive with constant updates, community support, and the passion of its players. StarCraft will endure for years to come.
Well said, gentlemen. StarCraft has stood the test of time and continues to be a filler of the esports world. Its unique blend of strategy, skill, and competition will ensure its place in the annals of gaming history.
And that wraps up our Twitter comment segment. Thank you to everyone who tweeted at us. Your engagement and enthusiasm fuel our discussions. Now let's move on to the final segment of today's show. Patreon questions.
The Patreon questions, always a delightful mix of insightful inquiries and hilarious troll posts. Let's see what our lovely Patreon supporters have in store for us today.
Strap yourselves in, folks. And it's going to be a wild ride. But before we jump into the chaos, let's take a short break and hear from our sponsors. When we return, we'll dive headfirst into the Patreon questions extravaganza. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Welcome back, StarCraft fans, to the Pylon Show. It's time for the highly anticipated Patreon questions segment. Brace yourselves because things are about to get wild.
That's right, Dan. Our Patreon supporters always come up with a mix of insightful and, well, let's say eccentric questions. So without further ado, let's dive right in.
Our first question comes from Patreon supporter She's a Champ, who asks, if Pizza became cell-aware and started playing StarCraft, what race do you think it would choose and why?
Oh, the infamous pizza question. Well, if Pizza became self-aware, I have no doubt it would choose the Zerg race. After all, the Zerg are all about spreading and consuming, just like a delicious slice of pizza.
While I understand the analogy, I think Pizza would be a Protoss player. It has that aura of sophistication. And each topping could represent a different Protoss unit. Plus, it would be the master of cheesy strategies.
I love the creativity in those answers. Our Patreon supporters really know how to keep us on our toes. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Our next question is from Trollmaster69, who asks, if you could add one unconventional unit to StarCraft, what would it be and what would it do?
The possibilities are endless. If I had to add an unconventional unit, I would introduce the Burrito Brawler. It would be a melee unit that can heal friendly units by releasing a burst of flavorful salsa. And of course, it would have a special attack called the Gok Slam.
Love the creativity, Sal. If I had to add a conventional unit, it would be the cheese cannon. It would be a long-range artillery unit that fires globs of molten cheese at enemy structures, slowly corroding them with its cheesy goodness.
Those units would definitely spice up the game, quite literally. I can already imagine the strategies and the jokes that would come with them. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Our next question comes from Pro Befrenzy, who asks, if you could have a StarCraft-themed meal, what would it be, and which race's cuisine would it represent?
Oh, I love this question. If I could have a StarCraft-themed meal, it would be the Terran Barbecue Extravaganza. It would consist of juicy, marinated meats, accompanied by flavorful side dishes representing the rugged and hearty cuisine of the...
That sounds delicious. Nathanias, For me, I would go with the Zerg Swarm Feast. It would be a buffet of exotic and vibrant dishes, incorporating a variety of ingredients and flavors, symbolizing the ever-adaptable and voracious appetite of the Zerg.
Now you guys are making me hungry. Those meals sound amazing, and I'm sure the StarCraft community would devour them. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Our next question is from Macro Maestro, who asks, if you could have a StarCraft-themed superpower, what would it be, and how would you use it in your daily life?
I'll see at a StarCraft-themed superpower. That's a fun one. If I had to choose, I would want the power of Chrono Boost. I could manipulate time to speed up any task, whether it's finishing work, learning new skills, or simply enjoying more quality time with loved ones.
That's a great choice, El. As for me, I would choose the power of Shonic telepathy. I could communicate with others through my mind, effortlessly sharing ideas and understanding people on a deeper level. It would be an incredible tool for fostering connection and collaboration.
Those are some powerful choices, gentlemen. I can only imagine the possibilities and the shift one could get into with such superpowers. All right, let's move on to the final Patreon question.
Our last question comes from Strapmaster 2000, who asks, if you had to organize a StarCraft-themed music festival, what bands or artists would you invite to perform?
A StarCraft-themed music festival, I would definitely invite the Terran Titans, rock band known for their powerful riffs and explosive stage presence. They would bring the energy and attitude of Terran race to the stage.
That sounds amazing, Nathanias. As for me, I would invite the Zerg Swarm Sereners, a unique ensemble that combines experimental sounds, tribal beats, and haunting melodies, creating an immersive and otherworldly musical experience.
Wow, those bands would definitely make the StarCraft-themed music festival unforgettable. The combination of music and StarCraft themes would create a one-of-kind event. And with that, we've reached the end of our Patreon questions segment.
Thank you to all our incredible Patreon supporters for their entertaining and thought-provoking questions. You always keep us on our toes and inject humor into the show. We appreciate your continued support.
That's right, Dan. We couldn't do this without our amazing community. Your engagement and passion for StarCraft keep us going. All right, folks, that wraps up today's episode of the Pylon Show. We hope you enjoyed the discussions, the Twitter comments, and the wild ride of Patreon questions.
As always, keep loving StarCraft, keep supporting the scene, and keep those pizzas from gaining sentience. We'll see you next time on the Pylon Show.